It's the internet, you're busy, let's do this. Welcome to the GamesBeat Decides podcast. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb. With me is...
Mike Minotti, that's me.
On this week's episode, we're going to go over some news. We're going to talk about stuff that's happening in the world of games. We're going to also talk about what we've been playing. But first, I want to thank everyone for joining us. You can get more from me and Mike at GamesBeat.com. If you have something to share with the podcast, you can email us at gamespluspodcast@venturebeat.com. If you are watching this on Facebook or YouTube, there's an audio version of this show that you can subscribe to. That's on Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, anywhere where you catch those pods. Finally, if you like the show, you could rate us on Apple Podcasts, and it helps other people discover the show. Mike.
Yo.
How you doing? What you been up to?
Not much. How's your week off?
It wasn't bad. You know, I took a long holiday weekend from July 4th through Sunday, so it was a good 5 days, and it was nice. I got some stuff done around the house and then played some games here or there.
You're about those staycations.
I am. When we do travel, but we tend to save that for going home for Christmas since we're so far away from family.
Plus, I mean, your kid's pretty small, so there's
right.
not a lot of places you can take her right now.
Exactly. So we've been doing road trips. Like we did Mount Rushmore like late last year or something like that, and that was fun. That was a good time. But we'll probably do that. I'm taking a little break here at the end of this month. We'll probably do a road trip then. But a big part of that vacation is also a staycation too. So
there you go.
I'm into it.
I like it.
How about you? How was your 4th?
It was pretty good. It was quiet. Most of my family thinks were the weekend before, so I wasn't doing too much.
Cool. Yeah, I was having a good time, and then the people just kept doing the fireworks, and it's like, it's kind of like, and not just like on the 4th, like through the entire weekend on Sunday night. It's
That's
like
how it goes.
I know it is yeah, for sure, but it's like eventually
it is annoying.
The charm wears off for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's exciting on the 4th of July, right? It's almost like seeing snowfall at Christmas. Like, they're playing fireworks.
Mm-hmm. And like, there's a nice little
Sue, come out here.
There's a hill at the end of my my road here where I can go out and like look over like the entire town that I live in, and you can see fireworks going off all over town, and that's really cool. I really like that.
I bet.
Yeah.
Nice.
Have you been playing anything though, Mike? That's what I'm interested in hearing about.
Well, I've been playing Octopath Traveler.
How is that? Is that a good video game? Well, wait. What were you expecting from this game first? Like, I remember seeing this for a while now. It's been one of the games that's coming to the Switch that I think a lot of people are excited about because it's beautiful looking, and it's like, it's like a traditional JRPG. It's like, if they kept making RPGs in the Super Nintendo style when it went to PlayStation and PlayStation 2 or whatever, and then now the game's out, or the game's coming out, and you're reviewing it. What is your feeling about that expectation?
Well, that stuff it actually kind of hits pretty well, right? It looks really, really good. I call it like, it's almost like a shadow box like version of an RPG, right?
Right.
It's like something you would like go to Hobby Lobby to make a JRPG or something where like if that makes any sense. Like it looks really cool because it is like these sprites still, like everything's sprites, but there's this weird depth to things,
right?
And like things almost kind of look like these paper houses almost. So, and the combat's really good too. This is the Bravely Default people. And there's a bit of that in like the way you kind of like can sort of like have a resource that lets you take extra turns and stuff like that. But then there's a bit more of this almost Shin Megami Tensei thing where you're exploiting enemy weaknesses to put them in this dazed state so that you can deal more damage to them. So the combat is really good and satisfying. The structure is just kind of not really working for me. So the whole point of this game is that there's 8 characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of each have their own story. You can start as any of them. Now, other games have kind of done a similar thing, like some of the Saga games and what have you. And the way it's works there is you kind of like pick one of the characters, you play as them for a while, and then you go to one of the other campaigns, and they kind of all converge at some point, right? Here, it's like you pick a character, you play their little campaign, and then you start going around the world map, and the first thing you really need to do is get the other characters. And the way that works is you go to like the town where that character is, you talk to them, and then it just kind of starts their chapter 1. And you're there for the fights of their chapter 1, but otherwise, like, these characters aren't intermingling in the stories. To the point of almost absurdity sometimes.
What do you mean they're not in, like, the characters that you are collecting or that you get to play as don't intermingle with each other?
Yeah, they don't talk to each, like, because all these first chapters have to happen as if nobody else is in the party, right? Because they
Right.
could be the
Okay.
first one.
Ah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so like when you like all the story stuff, it's just that character is there, and so and then after like you do these first chapters, which is a long process, that's 10 hours right there, and it's kind of weird and disconnected, like because it's very formulaic, right? Like each person, it's intro, cutscenes, and story stuff. Then you kind of walk around, then more cutscenes. Then you go to a dungeon, you beat the boss, more cutscenes, then you leave that town. And that's the formula for all of these things, and they're similar because anyone could be the first one you do.
That is weird. It feels like
Right,
they
but
should have just like you pick one and then you kind of don't get the entire origin story for each character. You just skip to their
well,
second chapter or whatever.
but it can't really work like that because I don't know if these stories ever really converge. I think each character just has kind of 4 or 5 chapters. Like once you do all the chapter one stuff, this is kind of where I am now. I'm like not allowed to talk about the content here, but I'm about to do it. You just go to each character's chapter 2 story,
Huh.
and I'm not sure. I don't think there's really necessarily any more mingling. It's just you go to the town, you say, I'm here for this character's chapter 2 story, and then that stuff happens. And it's not like, my mage is doing something, and then all of a sudden my thief comes in and like has a little quip here,
Right.
It's because you could even not actually get them if you wanted to. You could just like get the first character, then grind all the way till you reach the level requirement for the next one. It's all weird stuff.
So, is that what's kind of throwing you off everything else, or is it like powering through? Is it good enough in other ways that you're powering through the stuff that you're not sure about?
I mean, powering through, that might be the word because it's like, it's hard to get a lot of enthusiasm when you don't have that connection to the characters, especially like the party and the story and some of that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't quite as exciting, right? Like, oh, I gotta do this and get to the next thing. It doesn't quite feel like that. But
Right.
yeah, it's just a weird structure, and yeah, I don't know if these things ever really come together, if the whole thing's like this, and if it is, I feel like that's not gonna really work.
Is it nice that it feels like it's a developer taking chances in this space at least?
Well, I don't know. Like I said, we've had other JRPGs where it's like, here's all these multiple stories and pick
Right.
which one you want. Like the things that are interesting to me here are the art style
Mm-hmm.
and the battle system. Like that's
Right.
stuff's pretty cool. I almost kind of just would be fine with that and not this sort of. And this is obviously the selling point, right? It's called Octopath Traveler. Like look at all these different things you can do.
So yeah, my understanding, or my guess was that you would just pick one of these characters, and they would be like your point person, and then if you wanted to, you can go back and play the game from a different perspective. But it would only change certain things, and it doesn't sound like that's not how it works at all.
No, each of these characters kind of has like their own mini RPG story.
Yeah, weird.
And you go through it, and you can collect the other people, and they'll be there to fight, and you kind of really should need to because so much of the game is exploiting weaknesses, which is like weapons or elements, so you kind of need more party members to help you do that. But yeah, it's weird. I'm not sure what to make of this quite yet. Like again, and it's kind of a weird thing to say 10 hours in, but it happens with JRPGs.
Yeah.
I mean, Xenoblade was pretty similar. 10 hours into that thing, you barely were going. But it's not like that, where Xenoblade, it was pretty clear, like, oh, I just haven't like done everything yet, or I haven't unlocked all the systems. I kind of unlocked all the systems. It's just, is this the formula?
Mm-hmm. Well, it does sound like something that I wouldn't be into based on the structure alone.
No, I mean, if you're not already a JRPG boy, like,
right,
you're not gonna have.
Right, I like the look of it, and I tried the first demo, and I was like, "There's maybe something here," but
right.
yeah.
Well, that like the demo is just one of the chapter ones, right? So it's just 8 of those, and the first thing you do is all 8 of those. I mean, you could skip one, but then you're just gonna have to grind, so you can. Because like after you do those 8 ones, like there's level requirements for the next chapter things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's interesting, man.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds different. I don't know. I wonder if other people are going to react the same way to you. It does sound like I have been seeing people discuss the structure of the game, and people seem hesitant about it. So I don't think you're going to be alone in that opinion on it. Anything else on Octopath before we move on?
No, I don't want to be all down on it. Like, again, the Baus is really fun, and it looks real good, but I don't know.
I mean, maybe it could still come together for you. Like you said, you're 10 hours into a JRPG. That's a weird place to be, like, relative to other games 10 hours in.
Right, exactly. So we'll see.
Yeah. I've been playing a few things. I took some time on that staycation to check in a few games that I've been meaning to play. One new one came out that was just a remaster. I'll start with Frostpunk. I've probably only played like 4 or 5 hours of this, but I really, really like it. Are you aware of Frostpunk at all?
This is that thing was a couple months ago everyone was talking about, or last month.
Yeah, it was a couple months ago. So it's basically a city management game, but it's the last city on Earth after the entire planet has frozen over. And it's up in this, it seems like it's like kind of way up north. Why you would want to go further north when the world is frozen over, I don't know. But it seems like it's like this far up north crater that they've built this coal-powered power generator into that has like, it's shooting out fire and stuff, and it's able to warm the stuff around it. And then you just build the city in like little cones around it, so like you're just filling in slots of the circle, almost like the pies of a Trivial Pursuit game. But you're building further and further out, from that center circle, and it's all about managing the morale of your people and making sure you're bringing in enough food and managing resources and sending people out to go bring in new people, and making laws. Like one of the first laws I passed was get those kids to work, like child labor laws. Hell,
Whoa.
I know, yeah, but it was like only safe. And then like later, if like as I got a chance to pass other laws, it was like, no, the kids work in all the places. We don't care about safety so much anymore. And at the beginning, it's like it's minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit. That's, okay, we're doing fine. People are getting enough food. This is fine. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, we're going to have a cold spell. Like, what do you mean a cold spell? It's already cold. It's negative 44 degrees Fahrenheit now. And it's like, oh, okay, I get why I would want to be the bad person that makes the kids work. And not only work 24 hours without a break. Like, that's another law. So
20, like that can't just be done. 24 hours without a break.
Well, I mean, they like to take breaks, but like 24 hours without sleeping and stuff. So it's like
They have breaks.
Well,
these kids sleep.
We need coal. If we run out of coal, everyone dies. And you guys are the ones working at this coal factory. Get to work.
Oh God.
Or else I kill Mickey Mouse. And it's like, yeah, I know.
Oh.
It's pretty harrowing stuff.
It's a rough world.
But that's the whole thing. It's like it really sells the concept of this is a rough world, and you're gonna have to make tough decisions, and everything is a tough decision. And in that first hour where you are just getting your feet, and you're like, oh, well, I'm gonna try to be the good guy. I'm gonna try to do stuff. I'm gonna make sure everyone gets enough food and is able to go to sleep and stuff. That passes quickly, just based on what you're facing. But it's really good. It's like really well done. It's very easy to get the grasp of all the systems because everything is just right in front of you. You don't have to worry about like scrolling over to the other side of your city. It's like everything just fits on the screen right there. And the only stuff that's happening off screen is you're sort of sending these Assassin's Creed Brotherhood style assassins off to go do stuff, but they're guys going out to save other people, bring them back.
Are you sick of that? I mean, I feel like people got sick of that like last year or a couple.
It was definitely it was in a lot of games, but I think I've missed a lot of them that have been in that have had that recently. There was a couple like back-to-back games after Brotherhood that really leaned on that heavily, and no one's really done it as well as Brotherhood, or it never felt as satisfying. But so I didn't grow too tired of it, and now that it's in this, I'm like, oh, that's nice. It just adds another thing that my brain can be like, oh, I could check in on that. Maybe they've returned. Maybe the timers tick down.
I guess I'm saying that because World of Warcraft started doing it like 2 expansions ago.
Right.
And I was like, I'm doing that crap all the time. Like,
yeah. If it was something I was dealing with nonstop in like a lot of different games, or one game that I played a lot, I'm sure I would be more sick of it. But I do appreciate it in this game, and just in the way it's set up. Just because, like, it does make more sense in this game, too, because you are, like I said, dealing with everything right there in front of you. Right. So you kind of want something to, like, distract you a little bit. But it's really good, and it's a game that, like, if I get time, that's the one I want to be playing more than anything else right now.
Gotcha.
I also finally started playing the Sexy Brutale, which is...
What's this now? So
it's on Switch. It was on PC last year, and I had it on PC, and I always meant to try it, but I'm like, I got it on Switch. I'll play it there. So it's this it's basically like a dinner theater, like a murder mystery dinner theater kind of thing, where you get to control time, and you have to learn the pattern of each murder to solve it and then stop it.
Oh, that's fun.
So, like, for example, like the first one was. The guy, like, you see the murder happen. The guy has a gun. He's kind of off to the side. You can't see him. and he shoots the guy that you need to go get the watch from, so you can actually get more access to time. So what you do is you go and you hide in the closet where the guy got the gun from, and you see him, and you track him, and he goes around to like try to find bullets, and when he's doing that, he drops in the same place where he's getting those bullets from. He drops some blanks. So you take those blanks, you pick those off the ground, and you run them over to the gun. You put those in the gun instead, and so when he fires the gun, it's blanks, and then the other guy has a chance to like fight back or whatever.
Did you ever play Ghost Trick?
No, I didn't, but I always meant to. It's kind of similar to that.
It's kind of, yeah, sort of kind of the same thing, yeah.
What's happening here is like I the first time through I didn't notice the blanks. That's something like the third time through, I realized that's what was happening over there. And I'm like, okay, I can go put that in the gun. I already figured out where the gun was. So you're just piecing information together about each of these crimes until you get to a point where you're like, you have the full picture, and then you can act on it. And it's very satisfying because everything's clockwork, everything's happening on a certain schedule. The game doesn't, like, you can't really be seen by the enemies. If they see you, the room turns red, and you're just supposed to run away, and that's, like, the power of your mask. Everyone has these masks. It's like a mask party, casino kind of thing. And so, like, there's not, like, a lot of punishment. It's just, like, go out there, figure out what's going on, and then figure out how to act on it. And I'm really digging it. The problem is it does run rough on the Switch. It's a, like, isometric 3D game. I had heard people mention this before when I'm like, oh, I'm gonna finally gonna play that on the Switch. I'm like, oh, whatever. And it's like, okay, actually, it is kind of bad. If it gets to a point where it's like, it does load a long time on certain doors, and it freezes here and there. So yeah, that's been a disappointment. And for some reason, I went back and booted up on the PC just to see how good it looked, and it looks way better on PC. And I'm like, oh, I should just play it there, but Switch is so simple.
Your bed now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Just a couple other things. Red Faction Guerrilla Remastered Edition, which I know is your favorite.
Is that still fun?
Yeah, I mean, the destruction in that game really is, kind of second to none.
Yeah, it's strange how even still, right?
Right. I just think that people don't want to make games that way. Developers want to be much more in control of the way that you're having fun. And this game's like, no, just go be an asshole that will destroy anything, and we'll figure out. We'll throw some stuff at you here and there, but we know that's what you're here for. But yeah, it's still just great to see to feel that the sledgehammer just slice through brick walls like butter and just tear, like, it just shreds it apart, and then you just move a little bit to the left and you do it again and you shred that wall apart too, and then eventually, if you hit it in enough spots at the base of the thing, a giant tower will fall down. And it does it in it looks so good,
right?
Because it just slowly crumbles, and then it's also still falling over. But then, as the other parts of the tower hit the ground, they are also breaking apart, and it's really impressive and satisfying.
Fun game, man. I do kind of want to get.
If you own it on PC, you already have the remastered edition. So that I was.
Oh jeez, I wonder if I do now.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like
picked it up at a Steam ship.
I know, yeah. Someone gifted it to me years
yeah.
and years ago, and I never actually went around to playing it. I'm like, now this is perfect, great. I just checked and I have it right here. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons I did play it. Finally, I booted up a Virtual Boy emulator for the Oculus Rift, and it was kind of amazing that Virtual Boy games are playable now. This emulator, I think it's called VB Gen or something like that. It's been out for a while, but I finally just tried it out, and it has this immersive mode, which makes it so you can actually look around in a way that the Virtual Boy never could. You can just have it be static and in front of you, exactly like the Virtual Boy. But if you turn on immersive mode, it's right there in front of you. You look around, you can look right, and there's Wario over there or whatever. And I just kind of played through a bunch of Virtual Boy games, and they were. Some of them are still really bad. They were all launch games for a new piece of hardware. So
yeah, some of them are pretty cool.
But some of them are pretty cool. Wario Land.
I liked Mario Clash, actually.
Yeah, I didn't. It's one game I didn't boot up, but I'm gonna go back in there because I want to play. I need to play a little bit more of those Tetris games.
You can play Jack Brothers now and.
Yeah,
rare things.
Right, I want to get out. I didn't boot up a Telero Boxer either, which I liked a lot at the time. I'm like, that would probably be even better now.
I'm just glad that these games aren't going to be lost. So this
exactly.
is away. Yeah.
They are Nintendo has no interest in saving them. I mean, Nintendo will make jokes.
They had
about
a chance with the 3DS.
Right.
They could have done it there.
Yes, absolutely, they could have, and they had no interest in doing so. And I guess I don't blame them, but also come on, save your history. But whatever. But no, you're right. This is it. This is a great way to play these games. It's comfortable. It works fine. I mean, some of the games aren't comfortable. 3D Tetris is an abomination. It is just of a foul game to be inside of. The way that the camera works and the pieces move and the frame rate's really low, and it's just bad. And what I want to do is I want to like take that game and like really analyze it, and then like maybe contrast and compare it to Tetris Effect when that comes out. So I reached out to the company that's making that game and like, hey, can we talk about this? Have you guys ever played this old one? We'll see if that works out. But yeah, it was cool to finally get a chance to play them.
Would you believe I own Red Faction Armageddon on Steam, but not Red Faction Guerrilla?
I owned Red Faction Armageddon too. I saw that when I booted it up, and I have no memory of buying that. That was
the one that came out after Guerrilla, right?
I think so, and it must have been like
it's
humble.
It's pretty similar. It's fine.
Hey, but I'm like, I must have been in a humble bundle or something.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I can think I got it.
I played Guerrilla like on the 360.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was like games that dropped in price pretty quickly. Actually.
Yeah, I mean, and it was a very early 360 game. It was like 2007 or something like that, or maybe 2006, really? in that range. Because like you could tell, because like it doesn't like stick to the formula for shooting where like you hold down left trigger and then shoot with the right trigger or whatever. It's like it has like right click to like look down the sights or something like that. It was weird. Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna get back into that game too. But of everything I'm playing, like I said, Frostpunk's the ones at the top of my mind. So I'm gonna try to make some time for that every night this week. See if I can get through a full game, and then maybe move on to something else. But Mike, that does it for me for the games I've been playing. Do you need to take a break or anything, or are you ready to get right on to the news?
Are you asking me if I need to go pee-pee?
Mikey, you got to use the facilities?
No, I'm good. Let's just do it.
All right.
Ready.
It worked. It worked.
Oh, God. Yeah, it worked.
All right, so we're getting into the news now. Up first, I wanted to talk about this ArenaNet story that happened last week while I was off. It was kind of one of the things that I was like half paying attention to, half like, I'm glad I don't have to like immerse myself in this. You I think you were immersing yourself in this a little bit, right? Like,
yeah, because I'm trying to work on a story here.
Yeah,
and it's hard. This whole thing's a mess.
It's a mess. It sucks and it's a mess.
It sucks. It's a mess. It's like kind of one overreaction, then followed up by a bigger, worse overreaction.
Right. Yeah.
You can explain what the situation is.
Well, yeah, and help me out here because, like I said, I was only half paying attention. But here's my understanding is Jessica Price was a writer for ArenaNet, the developer of Guild Wars 2, and she decided to do a thread of tweets on Twitter where she explained why it's so difficult to do branching dialogue in a massively multiplayer online game such as Guild Wars 2. It was a thorough thing. It was clear that she has expert level understanding of her job. Makes sense. In response to that, she got someone who is a partnered content creator on YouTube for Guild Wars 2. Said, yeah, this is great stuff. I disagree. Here's how you could do this in the game. And I think she was sort of not having it at that point. And she quote tweeted him basically saying, oh, here we go again. Here is another guy telling me how to do my job. It's just another day being a female game developer. And then I think she followed up by calling him saying that this is what I deal with from rando asshats.
Yeah, so she was clearly rude.
Yeah, I think rude. Okay, I don't know if it's clearly. I think there's definitely a way to interpret that easily as rude. I also think that maybe she's just like, come on, I don't want to. I'm an expert at my job, and you're coming at me with like these
sometimes you can be rude for
You're okay. Yeah,
reasons.
Yes, and I won't say that. I won't sit here and argue like no one could consider that rude. It definitely. Yes. Sure. I'll concede that. But what happened after that was
it's weird.
Yeah. I can't remember his name.
It's not Fries, but it's like Free. I think it's like Freeze.
Freeze. Okay, so this is another writer. Peter Freeze is another writer with Guild War with ArenaNet on Guild Wars 2, and he was like saying, "Look, just kind of put." And he was talking to the guy, I think, and he was saying, "Put it in perspective, man. No one asked you for your opinion. She didn't ask you, and you came and kind of told her how to do your job." And the way he explained it, I thought was very not rude. He was not rude.
No, he was being, he was taking her side, I guess, if we don't think of it in schoolyard terms. But yeah,
right, and it seems like schoolyard terms might be the way that some people are thinking about this who have higher positions of authority in this whole situation. I mean, but the reaction to this was on the Guild Wars Reddit or subreddit. They were like, "Oh, she's calling people rando asshats. We want their jobs," basically, or they're freaking out. They were mad about it because, of course, they have something to be mad about, and they're going to blow it out of proportion because there are always those fans who do that about all these things. And ArenaNet's reaction to this was to fire both of them.
Both of them, like, first off, fire.
Yes.
And then both of them.
Right. But I mean, even firing her, like,
yeah, just as anyone. It's nuts.
I had.
And like I said, I don't really like you know me. I'm a little bit Mr. Sunshine Rainbows. Let's be nice to everyone. So I'm not a big fan of like the way she did react. Right, the thing. I would almost say like, I don't think that's nice. That's not what.
Right.
Know, this guy. Maybe he's being a bit mean, but
right.
But maybe he's being a bit not mean, but maybe he's not. Maybe he's coming from a bad place from this, but still. But the reaction of this.
But like you not liking the way she's reacting and then firing her, like between those two positions, aren't there a million miles? Like I don't you feel like there's like I am on Twitter a lot. You're not a guy that tweets a lot, right, Mike? I tweet a lot, and
not because of stuff like this.
Yeah, and I get into it with people, and I've never really felt like my job was in jeopardy. And I think it would be kind of absurd at this point if I found out that it is ever because of the stuff I say on Twitter. But people definitely tried to get me fired for the stuff I've said. Absolutely. Or they're just mad that we got in an argument or something, and they've tried to get me fired. And it would never go from 0 to 60 like that for my job, and I'm very grateful for that. And it seemed like, and it doesn't even seem like, they've kind of confirmed at this point that that's what happened here is the management at ArenaNet was not involved in this, and then as soon as they got involved, the first thing they did was fire them. There was no steps, right. There was no warning, there was no conversation.
It sounds like very specifically the president, and I can't remember the name now. He was just personally did not like this and was upset. And
right.
Like, there's hell going to be to pay.
Yeah,
I hard. Also, like to make an example.
So Mike O'Brien is his name, and here is what he posted on the Guild Wars forum in response to people freaking out about this. Recently, 2 of our employees failed to uphold our standards of communicating with players. Their attacks on the community were unacceptable. As a result, they're no longer with the company. I want to be clear that the statements they made do not reflect the views of ArenaNet at all. As a company, we always strive to have collaborative relationships with the Guild Wars community. We value your input. We make this game for you.
It's like the thing you say when like one of your employees says the N-word on Twitter or something.
Right. Exactly.
It's like,
and it's
man.
And it's just completely like they weren't getting paid to be on Twitter. Like you don't pay them to be on Twitter.
Yeah.
That's
go ahead.
It's so when she goes on there and explains an aspect of her job and why it's hard, and then people want to disagree with her, and she's like, "Look, I really do have an expert level understanding of my own job, and you are coming at me with some very fun, rudimentary ideas about how it could work when I've already explored all the reasons why it can't." And I'm going to be rude about this because it does feel like it's a part of the dog pile you're piling on of all these people that just don't get it and feel like they know my job better than me. I'm going to be rude about it. And she's doing all this like separate from what she gets her paychecks for. And then she goes into work and she gets fired for it because it just feels like Mike O'Brien feels like he has control over what people can't say and can say, and they want to have that conversation, and when they want their employees out there talking to people on Twitter for the company. But if you fuck up, that's it. Get out of here. And it's just such a embarrassing thing for ArenaNet to be involved with, and if that's their position, it's embarrassing.
The thing I'm finding interesting, and it's kind of thing I want to like really look into, is this kind of weird sort of requirement that or this expectation that people have, these game developers, that all their employees are like de facto PR, public relations, like
right.
community managers, right? And that at all times they have to bend over backwards. This customer is right, like as if they're like somebody's server at a restaurant, right?
Right.
Like, everything's like, you're right. No, this is great. We love everything you guys have to say. Haha, our fans are the greatest fans in the world. Blah blah blah. Lip service. And that's it's never like accounted into anything about their job. You know, like that's always emotional labor. Like a lot of other
Right.
places, you know, like yeah, like that's taken into account. And there's just, and part of it is because of companies that like just happen to do that stuff well, like Blizzard, and that even then there's constantly problems with it, right? Or,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, but it's just this weird thing. Like, have we gone too far with this? Is it really fair for us to expect every single writer for this game to have to like engage positively at all times with every member of the community and pretend like they like all of their feedback and they value all of their feedback? Like we know that those are the buzzwords, that we value all your feedback.
Right.
Do they actually have to live that 24/7?
And it's such a that whole idea, the customer's always right and we value your feedback. It's such a lie at this point too, because customers say shit all the time. Everyone contradicts each other, and most people that say stuff don't mean what they say, and we can prove that based on behavioral data. Just looking at, like, they have so much more information based on the way that you use your money and the way you spend your time in the game, that they almost absolutely don't need your feedback. It is not helping them, and it's only creating like situations like this one, or the potential for situations like this one. And so when someone comes in and tries to, say stuff, it's like, first of all, we have to assume that you are doing so from a position of good faith, where we've seen enough times, at least, like I said, I'm on Twitter all the time. I've seen enough conversations start exactly the way that guy started his conversation that is immediately undercut by the fact that they're just trying to get one over, or they're just trying to win a point or score a point in an argument to make themselves feel better because they are mad at the game about something. And so when we put people out there like this into that situation, it does feel like it's only creating problems. And we all know that it's a lie. We all know that that we are always listening to your feedback is a joke at this point, right? Like, everyone knows that. And so it's also weird when people come out like, oh, no, you have to listen to my feedback, or else you won't have a customer. And if you don't have customers, then you can't make a game and you don't have a job. So you need me. So you have to listen to me, and you have to put up with all of my bullshit. Even when it does seem like he was being pretty, the original tweeter here in this case was being pretty tame, or pretty mild, it still is part of this overarching thing that everyone deals with who is on social media at all times. And it's a lot, and it's kind of, I just feel, I wish we could be more honest about the way people are engaging with one another.
Right, and it's just, I don't know, it's just this another weird fence that goes up between the normal gaming audience, the journalists, and the developers. Because everyone, I don't know, everyone feels differently about these things.
And yeah, who's gonna start risking their, who will risk their job by actually communicating with anyone anymore? I mean,
oh gosh, I mean, it already wasn't happening very much.
Right.
Well, because people were afraid of when you say something, they hold it to you. Like, you can't say, "Look, we're working on this feature." Then all of a sudden, that feature gets shelved for some reason.
Right.
And it's like they lied to us.
They are No Man's Sky. Like, no one wants to be No Man's Sky. It's like, yeah, sure, they made a lot of promises they didn't live up to. It's not worth holding a. I just think of a weird trial in Star Trek, where we put the developers in the middle of a room and everyone's in the shadows, throwing all their words back at them. And every developer lives with that as a potential situation that they could end up in all the time. So yeah, it was already happening, and now on an individual level, who would risk it? I wouldn't if I were in this situation. Yeah.
No. I have very low stakes and I don't risk it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like I have a family to feed and all those cliches or whatever. You got to put a roof over their heads. So I feel a little bit scared occasionally. I'm like, oh man, and I have pulled back on Twitter a little bit. I've tried to be less abrasive at all times. I'm still 90% of the time still very obnoxious and abrasive, but I've tried to pull back here and there. And it comes from that point where I'm like, oh man, I really don't want this to turn into a thing and then lose my job because of it, and that would be a problem. But this has such a larger chilling effect because it's such a.
We're going to see the ripples of this for a bit still, I think.
Yeah. I think the last thing I would say about this is, man, it seems like developers need to unionize, right? They need to just have a union just to protect them.
It's so obvious.
Yeah.
I don't know, right?
Yeah. I mean, so in 2008, we went into the Great Recession, and everyone's job was worth so little because there was 25 people for every job. Everyone wanted every job, and so businesses, companies, corporations didn't have to treat workers with a lot of respect or with a lot of care. And now we're in a situation where there are like half of people for every job. Like the people are like every company is desperate for workers for every position, and they still haven't really started treating anyone with respect or anything. So it's like, if that's not gonna, like, if market forces aren't gonna force them, you really just have to leverage the power of collective bargaining. And yeah, it's just obvious that they need protection in situations like this.
I mean, we already saw a lot of stirrings of it.
Yes,
starting at
it does.
GamesBeat,
Yeah,
and I think it's on its way.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And it'll probably be for the best.
All right, Mike. Thanks for helping me figure out that story.
I'm glad because I'm like trying to figure it out too.
Yeah, it's something. I think, go ahead.
It is weird. There's so many. I don't know. There's so many ways to. Because first you hear what happened, you go, "That's awful." Then you see the exchange, and you're like, "Oh, she's a little mean." But then you're like, "Wait, she was fired. This guy was fired. Like what?"
Yeah,
But then I don't know.
and
then I think some people take it too far, like in some directions. Like I think some people are saying, "Oh, Reddit got her fired." I'm like, no, I think that this weird jerk boss got her fired.
Yeah, but Reddit, it definitely emboldens Reddit to like there was people were pulling quote, and I mean. Of course, everyone on Reddit's going to say everything at all times. So you could pull a quote for anything, but people are like showing stuff like, they're running scared, and if they ever do anything, they know that we have our boots on their throats, and it's like
that one I was suspect of just because it literally like cut off where you could see if it was downvoted or not.
Yeah, totally fair. Yes, absolutely.
And I was monitoring the Reddit, and there are like some of them like. Most people are, to be clear, happy they're fired. But a lot like, it's real regretful that they were fired. But, it shows that they really care about the community. And it's like, you're halfway there.
Yeah,
maybe you're a fifth of the way there. I don't know.
You're still holding yourselves like ransom in a really weird and backwards inverted way.
Yeah.
And it's fucking gross still, but you're halfway there, yeah.
All right, we should probably move on from this. It's such a pit.
Yeah, for sure. I feel for... Because, man, fuck a lot of people on Twitter who just like feel they have.
And there's a lot of people whose their thing is that they're kind of terse people, and a lot of times that works for you if you happen to be a guy. But people do not put up with that if you just happen to be female, right?
I think that's
it can't be your thing, huh?
I think that's probably the most basic thing here, the most fundamental element of what happened here. I think you're absolutely right. Okay, so this is like let's switch topics a little bit. This is like a funner thing. I don't know if you've looked at this list, Mike, that I put in here, the Steam's top 100.
Yeah, I wrote about this.
Oh, okay,
this is interesting.
Yeah, so
finally, a nice list.
Yeah, exactly.
Wash that bad taste out of our mouths.
For real. It's lay it on me, refreshing. Oh, it's so good. The Oasis.
Grand Theft Auto 5. Can we let us say anything about that?
It's an oasis in the desert, Mike. Okay, so these were like. They didn't number them, and I don't know if this is necessarily in order, but they just like rank stuff by like platinum, gold, silver, and didn't really define any of this stuff. I don't know if you got any more information on any of this, but these
the terms are a little unclear.
They're Valve about it. So these were the games that were in the platinum category in terms of best sales through like 2018 so far. And it includes free-to-play games, so we're going to assume it also includes all microtransactions for any of these games.
It's revenue.
Revenue, exactly. So I guess we'll start from the bottom here. Civilization 6, which...
Makes sense.
Yes, it does. Civilization 5, I think, was more popular and more lucrative, I think, than Civilization 6 has been. But it's still... The series still has its sway, and 6 is getting better because of expansions, of course.
Yeah.
And then next is Warframe, which is the first free-to-play game on the list.
It's so... I still remember Warframe as just that game we all downloaded on our PlayStation 4s or Xbox Ones because it was free. Mm-hmm. And, like, this game, like, is real successful now.
Yep, I mean...
And it, like, looks... And I'm like, this kind of looks like a game I would like. Like, why am I not playing this?
Yep, I'm
not really sure.
I'm at the same position. I keep, like... thinking about installing it and playing it for like the last couple of months, and I feel like it's pushing me over the edge with the last announcements of like what's coming in the next update.
And it's coming to Switch, and it's like, that's like a neat game to like play sometimes on the Switch, maybe.
Yeah, and especially if like I don't know if it's going to have this, but if it has any of the cross-account stuff where stuff transfers from Switch to PC,
I think it's exactly what it's going to have.
Then yes,
I'm not super sure.
I would assume that, and if that's the case, then hell yeah, I'm definitely going to be getting into it at that point. Next up is Counter-Strike Go.
Yeah, one of the
Also,
perennial Steam,
yeah, most
success
played.
stories.
So yeah, so it's not a surprise that it also is doing really well with its microtransactions. It has a ton of cosmetic items, so no surprise. And then of course, Grand Theft Auto 5.
Of course,
Of course,
people just love
I
Grand
love
Theft
Grand
Auto
Theft Auto
5.
5.
Yeah, I got no. What a great game!
What a great.
Its continuous success delights me.
There's one thing I didn't get fired for when I was like,
All right.
man, fuck Grand Theft Auto 5 because it just keeps
You
selling.
gotta start talking to.
I gotta start talking to because they weren't happy with me, and I'm like, guys, no, it don't mean it like that. It's a fine game. God,
It's fine. This is what the kids say sometimes.
Yeah,
Like,
it's just what the
like,
kids say. Yeah,
Like, it's like when you find out that like your friend's got like this like hot like
yeah. Go
new,
fuck yourself. Yeah,
girlfriend or boyfriend. You're like, go fuck you, man.
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Stern talking to, not fired though.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. Next up, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. I mean, a lot of these games are games that just have a lot of support. A lot of them are old games. I don't think so far none of them have come out this year. They've all had updates this year, major updates because of their ongoing games as a service nature. But Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege is one of those games that came out in 2015 and it's just kept getting bigger because people like its competitive scene and Ubisoft keeps supporting it with new updates.
It's so weird because Counter-Strike is so weird to me because all my memories of that game are from like 1999, like the older version of it.
Right? Yeah. And yeah. That's the oldest game on the list, I think. Counter-Strike.
Well, it depends if you think of the Go version, or even still, it might be the oldest game, huh?
Yeah, I think even still, maybe. But yeah, definitely Counter-Strike overall. Okay, so we did GTA 5, Rainbow Six Siege. Here's a game that's actually, I think, did come out this year, was Kingdom Come Deliverance. But it came out late last year or early this year. I can't remember.
It was pretty recent-ish.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's one of the more recent ones, and it's not a games as a service, but it's definitely in that Skyrim category where it's open world and fantasy. Well, medieval. It's not fantasy, although there's some fantasy.
It got
elements.
like a lot of buzz coming out, like both good and bad. I think
right.
both
People are
just
talking about
helped
it.
People were talking about it a lot.
Yeah, and it's kind of a I think kind of a vanilla sort of game where it's like yeah, I could take it or leave it. But it's definitely done well. I think people just like those kinds of games and want more of them. So they wanted to reward this one. This is the newest game on the list, Jurassic World Evolution.
I think this is the most interesting game on this list.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Not like literally the game itself, but like that it's on this list.
Yeah, tell me what your thoughts are, because I have some too. I want to hear what yours are.
Well, it's surprising, right? Because like these same people make the much better Planet Coaster, right?
Right.
And much deeper game. I think it's fair to say a better game. Like Jurassic World Evolution is fun. I liked it. I gave it like an 80. But this is just the power of licensing, man. Like the right license with the right developer.
Mm-hmm.
Like how smart was it to just say like, hey, here's the games that make that good game about making a theme park. Let's just have them make a Jurassic World park building simulator thing. And I think that was just a very easy sales pitch for everybody. Plus, you have the synergy of the movie coming out and all that stuff. They actually got that thing like primetime like stage stuff at like E3 and whatnot. They marketed this game very well. They're like, "Hey, Jeff Goldblum's hair isn't that fun, everybody."
He's in the game more than the movie, yeah.
Yeah, he really is. I think it was just a big marketing and just kind of conceptual win. And the game is actually fun. Like, people aren't going to spread like horrible bad buzz about the game either. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, people might have nitpicks, but it seems it doesn't amount much more than that. I think you're right. Jurassic Park / World just continues to be this license that is monstrous. It's huge. It makes way more money than you even like realize whenever like you look at those movies. Like what it made? How much it made? Like $1.5 billion? Like
Sorry.
what?
Yeah. It's nuts. And it's weird because what you always hear about movie licenses is pretty much mobile for any of that anymore.
Right.
And like this one, I think it is just like kind of that happy incident where Jurassic World / Park happens to work for a genre that isn't just like the generic like first person or third person action game. Even though they could have made that also. Yeah.
But no, they did a little bit more work than they have done in the past with movie license games, and it paid off.
I'm glad because I love Frontier, and a very nice paycheck for them.
Exactly. I'm glad. Make money. Get that money. That's what I always say.
Pump it into Planet Coaster, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm sure they're gonna have to make Jurassic World Evolution 2 now, though.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, PUBG is the next one after Jurassic World Evolution. Not surprised. It left 1. Or went into 1.0 in December of last year, and it went on sale for the first time just like a couple of weeks ago. And it's still a very popular game. It's still regularly the
Yeah.
most played game on Steam. So not a surprise.
It's feeling a lot cooler now that it's so nestled in the shadow of Fortnite, but it's still
Yes,
making money.
right, exactly. And it's just like the big console version of one of these games is going to be the biggest one, and PUBG is just kind of trucking along and still has its fans, but it's not Fortnite. And speaking of which, we should point out Fortnite not on this list, obviously, because it's Epic Game Launcher,
Right.
not available on Steam. Next up, Warhammer Vermintide 2. That's I think it's it's one of the games that came out this year. It's pretty good from what I've played. I've only played a couple of hours. This is one where we should go back to, Mike. I think they got
Yeah,
some.
I still want to try this.
I know. Oh, yeah, we both have it, and I think there's some like free DLC coming out soon or free update that's gonna like change some stuff up. I think this is one where we should actually like just dive in because it might be. I definitely like what I've played. It's really impressive. It's like Left 4 Dead, but with a lot more melee attacks. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a good. People like those kind of games. It sounds like they kind of did a lot of smart things there to improve this. I
right
mean,
to
I
make
never
sure that the
even heard
loop is
that much
good.
about
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't hear much about the first one, and all of a sudden the sequel is
Right.
one of the best selling games. So there you go.
And then of course Dota 2, which is
Another perennial Valve
right,
thingy.
just it's going to be the thing. You can only get it on Steam. It's huge. It's got a huge, immensely dedicated audience that is always going to be buying microtransactions, and they keep doing that. Far Cry 5 is number 2 if the list is ordered, which I think it might be, maybe. And that's that's not a surprise. Ubisoft's games always tend to sell super well. The Far Cry series just keeps getting bigger, I think. And I know Far Cry 5 was among the best-selling games on console through this point of the year, so it's not surprising to see it doing this well on PC as well. It's also worth noting some people do buy their games from Ubisoft through Uplay, so this wouldn't even contain every single game sold on the PC, and it's still a platinum seller. And then finally, Rocket League, which another game from 2015 or 2016. It might be 2015.
The ones that's just kind of becoming a perennial. Like this is always going to be doing well,
right,
for a bit now.
It's got a team that really knows what it needs to be doing when it needs to rejuvenate the game. They just came. I was gonna say they just came out with one of those battle passes for Rocket League, and it's like clearly they realized, you got to have one of these if you're going to compete in this games as a service space, and so they did.
They have an advantage over some of these other kind of popular games as service things where they're not going to have a direct competitor.
Right.
Right. Like it's
Exactly.
not like no one's going to come and Fortnite them.
Right. Yes.
It's if you want to play something like Rocket League, you're going to play Rocket League.
Right. And it is on everything now, so they are well established. No one can like do the same thing on a different console where they're not at, and maybe mobile, but even then, no. So yeah, I think it's a. Do you feel any anxiety or anything about the fact that there are so few new games on this list? Because I don't.
No, that's just how Steam goes. And if you
Right.
go to like the next tier or whatever it is, you'll see plenty of those.
Right, exactly. That's where they sort of end up, and it's like that. That's probably enough money to justify to continue making these games, especially for PC. Everyone seems more interested in PC these days. Madden's coming to PC for the first time in a decade, it seems like. So yeah, it seems like it's doing just fine as a platform. Just games as a service continues to be where the real money's at. Big surprise. Yep. All right, let's move on to the rest of these news stories. Kind of hit these headlines. Todd Howard says, he said a couple of things. Let's start with this first one. Service-based Fallout 76 doesn't mark the future direction of Bethesda. Essentially, after we just talked about this, but just because Fallout 76 is, an online game, multiplayer game, I would assume that it is the GTA Online of the Fallout universe. That would be my guess for what they're trying to go for. That doesn't mean that's what Bethesda is going to be doing exclusively from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of like two parts of it. Part of it is like the desire to try something like that. Another part is the desire to like just kind of not straight up asset flip Fallout 4, but to do something with it, like another project, kind of like what they did with New Vegas.
Right.
Even though that wasn't directly them, so.
No, yeah, you're right. This gives them a chance to experiment. They can use a lot of the work they did, and you know, this is probably an area where they do need to be proficient in, and just in case like they don't have any other options going forward. If games as a service is like really the only viable thing, suddenly it doesn't seem like that's going to be a concern for Bethesda, or at least Bethesda Game Studios, but maybe. And then on the other end, there is the fact that Skyrim and Fallout are always among the most played games on Steam, and if you're going to have games that people are playing all the time, like, why wouldn't you just set it up as a GTA Online version of those games? Like, it just makes so much sense. People want to play it that way, it seems like, almost. And maybe that's not what that indicates. Maybe the number of players doesn't indicate that, but there's definitely something to be taken advantage of to make even more money from these games, and maybe potentially make something great in the process. Who knows? We'll see. Another Todd Howard quote, if you want us to stop re-releasing Skyrim ports, stop buying them.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think that you don't really need to say much more than that. I mean,
it's one of those, like, I think a lot of people like to talk about it. I don't think that many people are actually complaining.
I agree.
I think
understanding
everyone gets it.
Yeah, totally. I don't think anyone's really that. I mean, there are definitely people who are just sort of not into Bethesda games who are always like, oh, they're always so buggy and they're awful and they're just the same thing all over again and they just keep releasing Skyrim all over again. And those people maybe are as serious as they could be without being fans. But no one who likes these games is actually really complaining all that much. They're happy that a Skyrim or a new Elder Scrolls is coming, and they want that for sure. But they're not that upset that, oh, they got a new Skyrim on Switch or whatever. Here's one. Monster Hunter World is coming to the Steam on August 9th instead of, like, I think what was assumed to be October. I think they mentioned something about October in the past. It's coming much sooner than that, August 9th. That's less than a month away, Mike.
This could be a very big PC game, I think.
I think so too. I fell off on the PlayStation 4 version, and I was just starting to kind of piece together how to play the game. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give it another go on PC. It's gonna be 4K and 60 frames per second on my PC. That's gonna be nice. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, it does seem like with like Discord and things like that, like there's just a lot of potential for this game to really blow up for a lot of people who've never touched a Monster Hunter game before.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Here's one I want to mess around with. I just kind of popped it in here. The modding scene for Super Mario 64 has released a 60 frames per second version that runs in HD and widescreen. The big thing here is 60 frames per second. Well, yeah. What do you think about that? Because I guess I never realized it didn't run in 60 frames per second. But yeah, of course it doesn't. Yeah.
Well, some Nintendo 64 games do. Like,
yeah.
Like F-Zero X does famously somehow.
Yeah.
So I was looking. It's definitely neat. I'm a little skeptical of it because like there are going to be some issues, and the name says this fixes most of the issues you would expect that would come from doing this. Like most of them. It's one of those things where I'm like, Mario 64 is kind of fine the way it is.
For sure. It's more just like that's eye-catching. I could tell that this looks smoother. It's neat, right. I don't know if I need to, like, I'm never going to feel like, oh, this is the only way I could play this game.
No.
I'm actually much more interested in, there's another mod for Super Mario 64 that, like, it's like a complete rework of the game that makes it like harder and adds new levels. Ooh. And it adds like the bee suit and stuff from Super Mario Galaxy and stuff. Yeah, I've downloaded it. I'm gonna install it and try it out soon because I'm actually getting interested in like these like complete alteration mods. There was one for Skyrim recently that like turned it into a whole new campaign.
That's a popular thing with the 2D Mario games. I've seen a lot of those.
Right, exactly.
Not so much for 3D Mario.
Right, so I'm like, yeah, it's it's like a ROM hack almost, but apparently it's really highly regarded. People are really into it, and it just got an update recently, which is why people are talking about it again. I can't remember the name, but I'll probably bring it next week when we talk about what we've been playing, because I do have it like right here ready to go.
There you go.
Okay, so this kind of the next couple stories I think fit into a theme. First up, the best selling Insomniac game ever is Ratchet and Clank 2016. Which I think I'm slightly surprised about, but then you think about just how well the PS4 was doing in 2016, and the people that own a PS4 and those games just seem to be hitting at the right time for the people that have nostalgia for all those old character action games.
I guess it's a little surprising in that the PlayStation 2 has such a large install base, and
right.
But I guess like an exclusive from Insomniac back then maybe didn't mean as much. Like so many people on PlayStation 2 were playing like Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that.
Right, Madden.
They weren't playing those mascot platformers.
Very different audience for sure. Now it's like all the kids who grew up on those games are in their late 20s and early 30s.
But there was so much more of a stigma back then against like people like you heard that like tossed around all the time. Oh, this game's kiddie. No one
Right.
says that anymore at all.
No,
And
for sure.
it almost sucked Nintendo that generation, right? Because like
Mm-hmm.
GameCube's kiddie. Look at the like. It was this weird thing because so many of the people who were playing video games were like 15 and 16 then, I guess.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was insecure teenagers for sure, and it was like
yeah, there's a lot of that.
it was that was definitely the shittiest part of that entire time of gaming because I was very much like, no, this kitty shit rules. What are you talking about? This plays so much better than what you're playing. But yeah, that might be a topic for another time. And then okay, the next story was Crash Bandicoot is now the fastest selling Switch game of 2018.
Wow.
We talked about this last week. I think you're still right that when I was suggesting maybe it could sell faster than the PS4, it's not going to do that. But this is faster than I was actually expecting after that conversation. Crash Bandicoot, man, and Ratchet and Clank, all these games, they just people I love them, and publishers just won't give them to them for some reason, except for like these, remakes or whatever, or like the occasional Ratchet and Clank game. It feels like.
The new Crash Bandicoot game must be in development now, right?
So that's the headline I didn't include because I couldn't source it. I wasn't sure exactly how accurate it was. But basically it said Activision has a 5-year plan for Crash Bandicoot that it's going to be huge and they're going to bring in everyone they need to like make it happen. And yeah, so I think you're right. It has to be in development. It sounds like it is.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's any project that they bring out, there's going to be under so much scrutiny if
right.
it's not Naughty Dog, and it won't be Naughty Dog probably, right?
Yeah, so, no, but it's, I mean...
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird because they're like, well, they can bring someone else in. Well, the first time they did this, they brought in Traveler's Tales, which seems like the people to do it, and even that was just such a forgettable thing, right? Like so many of those.
I mean, selling well, and it's like, what have you done for me recently? And if what you've done is just slam dunked sales on the PS4 and then Switch and then every other console it's on and PC, it's gonna. A lot of people are gonna be paying a lot more attention to it at Activision at a higher level, and them might carry forward into them like saying, okay, no, we can invest the time in a good development house and make sure that they have what they need and make it happen. And you hope that that's how this plays out.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is different because it is coming off of something positive in the trilogy, whereas the remasters last time came off of a negative of, well, the original team isn't here anymore, and everyone knew it.
Right.
It was kind of like obvious. So yeah, I'm definitely interested, and like I am kind of excited to see like what's gonna happen now because it seemed like a thing that like just wouldn't happen at a point. Like I guess Crash Bandicoot's done, and of all things, like this remake trilogy has like just been this giant shot in the arm, and the same as that thing's gonna happen. Maybe not to quite this level, but with the Spyro thing, it's gonna be.
Yes, yeah, that's gonna be a huge success as well. I mean, that probably will sell best on Switch if it comes out first there. I guess Activision does own that. Maybe they have the same deal with Sony. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know. Crash was definitely more associated than with PlayStation than even Spyro was. So I don't know if they're gonna want to make that same year-long deal. Maybe they will. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to move on to Nintendo more directly here. So some people were disappointed with Nintendo's E3, including some of its investors, and they I have to say that these investor Q&As happen with Nintendo like pretty regularly, and they often include some of the dumbest questions I've ever read. Like
there is an all-time new favorite dumb question.
Yeah, what was I sent it over to you? I can't remember it now. What was the one that they asked? It was
the one that kills me is the one guy's like, with all of these this theme park thing at Universal, aren't you worried that people are like gonna like get the sass like their fill of Nintendo there and not buy the games? It's like, have you never heard of synergy? Like, what is even the basic logic? You're like, man, I already went on that Mario ride. I don't need to go play the new Mario game.
It's baffling.
Remember when they built that Harry Potter section in Universal, and then people started buying all the Harry Potter stuff?
It was such a
disaster.
Shame. I don't even remember them anymore.
That turned out to be.
Oh man, that was
just like some guy just talking Universal talk. I don't know.
Yeah, man, and there's always been dumb questions in that thing. I can't remember exactly. There was one about the baseball team. I can't remember exactly, but I remember being like flabbergasted back then too. But one person was like, "Hey, are you going to have any more games?" All right, that's a good question. Nintendo said yes before the end of 2018, like the holiday of 2018.
We'll have more games.
Not fiscal year. And it's like games they haven't announced yet, so that's interesting. Maybe there's some surprises in there. Um, I'm not too shocked by this news. I guess I always assumed that Nintendo would have one more major Nintendo Direct between now and the holidays
Oh, for sure.
that would involve them releasing one like a game they haven't announced yet. So
I mean, it might even still be like that Yoshi game or like something
right,
like on the level of like, look, it's a new WarioWare for the Switch.
right.
Like
I'm
something that level.
exactly. I'm not expecting Animal Crossing, which I think just because they're coming out with a new 2DS version of that. Not the game, but like based on the old Animal Crossing, it feels like they're
Yeah.
still like holding off on that. And I wouldn't expect anything. I mean, it's obviously not Metroid Prime 4 or anything like that. I think the Yoshi is probably a pretty good guess. But it's not like they are at a want for games for that system from other people because here's a headline: Devolver Digital still has over a dozen games for Nintendo Switch to release later this year. A dozen from one publisher. Dead Cells got announced to. We knew it was coming because they announced the physical version. They confirmed like late last night today. It's going to hit Switch and everything else on August 7th. Warframe got announced. We talked about that. Skullgirls, that fighting game, got announced for the Switch. It's just everything's coming to this system now. So I don't necessarily know what they need beyond Smash Brothers and all of this other stuff and a new Pokemon.
I certainly have absolutely like I'm certainly developing a big backlog of anything.
Yes.
So even if it isn't necessarily a lot of first party Nintendo games right now. Although I am looking forward to finally playing Captain Toad. I missed it the first time, and
I played it the first time, so I'm kind of on that fence about buying it again. I do want to play the Metro,
levels.
yeah, the Super Mario Odyssey Metro City one. Yeah, that would be cool, but we'll see. I could probably just pick it up on a sale or something. All right, let's get into this last story, Mike. The Hearthstone expansion. Tell me all about it.
Well,
I
know
don't
that
know.
you're just
I don't
tickled
know.
with curiosity.
I am. Could you
Because
hear the excitement in my voice?
the fun thing is that it's called the Boomsday Project. It's kind of focused on mechs again for the first time since
Wait,
the
it's focused on Mexicans?
mechs again.
Oh, okay. Wow.
It's focused on it's the Mexican expansion.
I was interested, man. I love, yeah, that'd be awesome. Okay, go ahead.
It's focused on mechs, which is for like the first time since the first expansion, which came out 2014 or whatever. Goblins and Gnomes. So it's pretty cool. There's some new mechanics here, like legendary spells now. There's a mechanic keywords that you can magnetic. I mean that you can use to combine two cards. Which we've seen done some other things, but this is kind of a neat new way to do it. But yeah, I mean nothing super crazy yet. It's the new expansion. There's only 3 of these a year if you play Hearthstone. It's pretty big news. So here it is.
Are you still at a point where you're watching what's his name regularly?
Trump. Yeah. I slowed down a little bit because I mean it is the cycle, right? And it's a good thing these things time out as they do. You kind of start to lose interest when you're this far into an expansion.
Right.
You've kind of seen it all, unless you're and I'm at this point I'm not gonna play enough to get legend or anything.
Right. You're not gonna move up the ladder much more than you already have. Yeah.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not doing a lot of ladder climbing. I play a little bit here or there, and
right.
I watch these other people play because I think it's interesting. But yeah, so it's the expansion, yay.
One last question about it. It is doing what you need to keep you interested, though. You said you start to lose interest. This has all the stuff you need to get you
Okay. Oh yeah, I'm like, hey, this
good.
Is nice. Look at this. Look, new card. They've gotten pretty good at how they do these reveal seasons. Because for a bit it was like they would reveal everything a little too fast, and then it was a bit revealing it too slow. They kind of found a good medium there, where it seems like I'm always like, oh, look at there's a batch of new cards to look at. Oh, this is interesting. What's this gonna do?
Right.
And so on. So.
And is the absence of Ben Brode felt at all?
A little bit. I mean, they do their kind of wacky announcement video thing, and it's still fun. But yeah, you do oh, Brode's not here.
Okay.
But
that's the way it goes.
Life goes on.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, Mike. I think that's gonna do it for us. I'm gonna hit this button right here. And then we could start talking about where people can find us on the internet and where we what we'll be coming up with this week. Do you have any stories happening? You got any features you're working on? Anything like that?
Oh gosh, I had to think up today about maybe we could talk about the Crowfall studio is selling their engine or they're licensing it Unreal Engine style, and it kind of has all these MMO tools and stuff.
Okay, weird.
Yeah, that's real interesting, right?
Yeah, that would be. It feels like that whole concept. Like, I think we were worried about like, oh, we just need engines to like do good graphics, and now like engines feel like they are this way of creating certain types of games. Like that's one of the major factors behind Fortnite for Epic was they want to make live service games and like games that could do microtransactions in the background, which is why they were doing a MOBA or whatever. So they build all those tools. And that's what keeps Unreal like on the cutting edge. So an MMO engine is very interesting.
Yes, very much so. So you can check that story out on GamesBeat, and that's where you can always find me writing. And I'm on Twitter at Tolkoto, Tolkoto.
And I am Jeff Grubb on Twitter. I'm also on YouTube.com/JeffreyGrubb. I've posted some of my. I did a Twitch stream of playing the Virtual Boy emulator on there, and I posted that to YouTube as well, so you could check out some of those games. It's pretty cool stuff. And then, like I said, twitch.tv/JeffGrubb. And once again, if you're listening to this on audio or you're watching somewhere else, we have twitch.tv/GamesBeat, mixer.com/GamesBeat. You can watch this at any time, and then we always put the archive up on YouTube, so you can catch that there. All right, Mike, I'm going to say goodbye to the fine folks. Goodbye.
Let's do it.
Goodbye, fine folks. Have a good one. We'll catch you guys next week.